Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your association and attendance as we continue Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, Chapter 11, verses 24 to 29, Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwarka. Om Jnanatimi Vandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Anvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sarva Sastra Piyusha, Sarva Vedeka Satvala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokai Triprada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidando Didaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita, O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, you are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions. O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Bhashasharayate Sarvada Sarvasya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss, for your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka Bandhu Mad Sangim Mad Guru Man Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. Sadhu sadhu tadahi natini chochataraka hanamuncha kada chinmam premna hritkatyo spura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest, Mahatma Trod, accompanying pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yatonvayaditaratas Charte Swabhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatrati Sargom Risha Damna Svena Sada Nirastakuakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord, O my Lord, Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are put into illusion as one is bewildered by the elusive representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him did the material universe is temporarily manifest by the reactions of the modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent and transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Pranal Payasha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Matama Mandayo Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagyu Padata. O learned one in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all always disturbed. Narayana Namaskritya Narachevam Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudhirayat, before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest. one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personhood of Godhead Narayan. Unto Narayan, we should a supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai Pumsaparo Dharmo Yathabhaktira Dakshya Yatma Suprisidati, the supreme occupation dharma of all humanity, that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lords. Devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted, completely satisfied self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayakyasa Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadhaitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personhood of God, Shri Krishna, one immediately causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadanti Tattat Pravidas Tattvam Yajnanamadvayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists know the absolute truth, calls non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shru 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 Sadanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahatsevaya Viprapunyatirtani Shevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Reddentustoya Badrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, representative of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and a benefactor, truthful devotee, cleanses desire from material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nastaprasho Badresho Nitam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatutam Slake Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular attendance in the classes on Bhagavatam. Am I rendering of service to the pure devotees? All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed in loving service unto the person of the Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, welcome again. So let us recap any statements, any points that you found interesting from Srila Prabhupada's purports, anything we covered from Canto 1, Chapter 11, verses 11 to 23. Anything specific that you remembered from this session of verses that we covered, please share that in the chat. Now, Devadika says, Krishna reciprocates just as it behoves, not a fraction more or a fraction less. So if we want Krishna to reciprocate more, then it is not that Krishna needs to reciprocate more, it is that we need to offer more. The more we sacrifice, then the more Krishna reciprocates. And the Lord, He does not lack in anything, and He can reciprocate unlimitedly. But for the conditioned souls like us, Krishna will reciprocate to the degree we desire. And there may be different reasons for that. One is Krishna does not force His love upon us. And therefore, He will wait for us to take that step for Him to then reciprocate. Although there are statements that Srila Prabhupada does make that if we take one step towards Krishna, Krishna takes 10 towards us. So Krishna does reciprocate more than what we put in terms of our effort. But still Krishna will expect us, especially in the process of sadhana bhakti, to endeavor. And to that endeavor, Krishna then reciprocates. We know that with the gopis, Krishna, their love is unlimited and unending. And therefore, Krishna really becomes indebted to them. He cannot reciprocate their love. Because there's one thing that Krishna doesn't have, and that is devotion for Him in unlimited quantity. Krishna doesn't have love for Himself. The love for Krishna is in Srimati Radharani. The personification of love and devotion is Srimati Radharani. She's the embodiment of Krishna Prem, Krishna's love. So Krishna finds it impossible to reciprocate the love of the residents of Vrindavan. Shamananda Prabhu says, Srila Prabhupada's purport on the whole science and physiology of modern day surrounding the life and lifestyle is spot on. Appreciate and utilize nature's gifts in the service of Krishna versus other means. Yes. And as devotees also, not so if we want to go to the spiritual world, there are certain aptitudes, certain characteristics, certain mindsets, certain paradigms, certain, even you could say, belief systems that we have to adopt, certain cultures, the spiritual culture, a lifestyle that we have to adopt. If we do not adopt that lifestyle, then it becomes an obstacle to enter into the spiritual arena. So in the spiritual world, Krishna's natural gifts are taken to be real opulences. And therefore, the more we use Krishna's natural gifts in this world, fruits, flowers, vegetables, grains, etc., as Krishna has given, then that is more favorable, anukulya, anukul, more favorable to cultivate devotion to Krishna. So we have to understand that it's not that we can do anything. At the same time, the material energy is moving against the practice of Krishna consciousness. Those who are ruling, those who are governing, those who are demonic in nature. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, their work is designed for destruction. And if we follow that, or follow them, or follow their footsteps, then that dampens, that weakens, that's unfavorable for our devotion. So you'll find that the materialists, they'll want to invent and always change. Robert said this is the disease of the modern world, to change everything. But Bhagavatam is educating us, utilize nature's gifts as they are given. Proper etiquette in welcoming the Lord on preparation of prasada for the pleasure of the Lord. You find that the residents of Dwarka, they received Krishna with prasadam, offering suitable reception and honoring the Lord. And we spoke about the power of prasad. Very, very powerful activity which Srila Prabhupada started the movement with, and always emphasize the quality of prasad, the abundance of prasad, and the mood of serving prasad. Very powerful Krishna conscious activity. Nice point about the different types of people and devotees. Try to understand and appreciate, especially on the prostitute, and Srila Prabhupada explain how to understand everything nicely. Yes. Krishna, he is not so much interested, or he does not react so much with the external circumstances that we are placed in, because our external circumstances are also due to our past karma. But no matter what our circumstances, if anyone takes to the path of Krishna consciousness, that is glorious. And it does not matter what background, what culture, what creed, what gender, what occupation one comes from. The fact that one is now surrendering to the Supreme Lord, that becomes the overriding factor of every other aspect of one's life. And because of that, one should be very careful to criticize or to condemn. And perhaps giving the example of the prostitute, they were devotees. They were attached to Krishna, even though they had this occupation, but Krishna was in their life. And there may be different levels of devotees. At the same time, our duty is to simply encourage everyone, no matter how little or how much they want to bring Krishna in their life. Our duty is not to condemn or criticize. Our duty is simply to encourage so that they can take more and more on the path of Krishna consciousness. Amurti says, material background and qualification don't matter. No one is barred from being a devotee. No one is rejected, yes, as we mentioned. And Nalini Kanta says, instead of conflict, rather appreciate. Srila Prabhupada gave the example of different flowers in the vase. The beauty is enhanced by different flowers. Wonderful, thank you. And that unity in diversity. The flowers, all different flowers in the vase, together amplify each other. So different flowers actually help recognize and appreciate other differences. At the same time, we appreciate the bouquet of flowers in the vase. And in this way, there's unity, at the same time, diversity. And we find that spiritual life is really about that. In the spiritual world, for example, Krishna's cows. Krishna has so many variety of cows, so many groups, so many categories, so many different colored cows, different shaped cows, Mardanga head cows, and all of them have a affectionate relationship with Krishna. Krishna knows each one by name, and they're all unique, have varieties of differences, at the same time, the cows. And Krishna loves them all. So in this way, we should appreciate differences. Shamananda Prabhu says, if you don't mind, kindly share some information or history on late Purushottam Prabhu and his family and their contribution to serving devotees and Srila Prabhupada's mission. Nice to learn about the devotees and their efforts so we can be inspired. Yes. So maybe at the end, just remind me, I'll speak a little about their Purushottam Prabhu's wonderful service. In fact, we're having a memorial service program on Sunday, after the Sunday program at 2 o'clock at Purushottam Prabhu's home. So we'll also speak there, but yes, we will share some wonderful qualities of Purushottam Prabhu. Thank you for your feedback. Let us proceed. So we are going to be covering 24 to 29, 24 to 27 is the Lord's attractive beauty, and 28 and 29 reciprocation with mothers headed by Devki. Text 24. Raja Margam Gate Krishna Dwara Kaya Kulastriya Harma Harmyanya Yagrurukur Vipra Tad Ikshana Mahotsava. When Lord Krishna passed over the public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwarka went up to the roofs of their palaces just to have a look at the Lord. They considered this to be the greatest festival. So just as in Hastinapur, the ladies went up from the rooftops, they were seeing the Lord. So here also we find the residents of Dwarka. They went up to the roof of their palaces, and Prabhupada comments on this, that in Dwarka, not only Krishna had palaces, even the residents had palaces. But what's interesting in terms of the statement that Ikshana Mahotsava, seeing the Lord, looking at the Lord, they considered this to be the greatest festival. Very interesting statement by Prabhupada. Festival in seeing the Lord. To have a look at the Lord is a great festive occasion undoubtedly. So we see Prabhupada starts off the purport with this last statement from the verse, which implies it's a very, very important statement. And Prabhupada also brings it down to a very practical level in relation to us. The residents of Dwarka, they went up and they went to the rooftops. And just by seeing the Lord, this was a festival for them. So to have a look at the Lord is a great festive occasion, undoubtedly, as it was considered by the metropolitan ladies of Dwarka. This is still followed by devout ladies of India, especially during days of Julian and Janmashtami ceremonies. The ladies of India still throng up in the greatest number at the temple of the Lord, where his transcendental eternal form is worshipped. The transcendental form of the Lord installed in a temple is not different from the Lord personally. Such a form of the Lord is called Archa or Archa incarnation, and is expended by the Lord by his internal potency just to facilitate the devotional service of his innumerable devotees who are in the material world. Material senses cannot perceive the spiritual nature of the Lord, and therefore the Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, which is apparently made of material elements like earth, wood, and stone, but actually there is no material contamination. The Lord being Kaivalya, one alone, there is no matter in him. He is one without a second, and therefore the Almighty Lord can appear in any form without being contaminated by material conception. Therefore, festivities in the temple of the Lord, as held generally, are like festivals performed during the manifestive days of the Lord of Dwarka about 5,000 years ago. So Prabhupada is bringing a very, very important perspective to the deities, Archa Vigraha in the temple, and observing the festivities in the temple. Here Prabhupada is making the point that seeing the Lord in the temple is non-different than seeing the Lord 5,000 years ago personally. Celebrating a festival in the temple is non-different from celebrating the festivities when the Lord was in Dwarka. So that gives us a glimpse of the importance of having deities in the temple and not neglecting the deities, and understanding that any service rendered to the deities of the Lord, rendered to the Archa Vigraha, is actually directly offered or rendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they are non-different. And just as the resident of Dwarka exhibited great affection, love in seeing the Lord, we also need to cultivate our attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and cultivate a relationship with the Lord in his Archa Vigraha form. The Lord, as Prabhupada explains, appears to facilitate our devotional service because we cannot see him. The residents of Dwarka, the residents of Hastinapur, the residents of Mathura, of Vrindavan, they could see Krishna face to face. And because they could see Krishna face to face, they could render personal service face to face. We unfortunately cannot see the Lord face to face due to our material senses. And therefore, the Lord appears in the Achavigra so that we can see him. The challenge is because of our mundane consciousness, when we see the Lord who has taken the form of an Achavigra made of metal or marble, stone, due to our conditioned nature, we see marble, metal, or stone. And we think this is just marble, metal, or stone. And with that misunderstanding, we reduce or dampen, we commit offenses to the deities, and thus reciprocation begins to wane and ceases. And that is why we worship the Achavigra according to the instruction given to us by the disciplic succession, by Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada again and again reminds us that this is Krishna. This is none different from Krishna. And just by having the opportune moment to be in front of the Achavigra, to serve the Achavigra, to glorify and worship the Achavigra, this is non-different to being in the spiritual world. Prabhupada created the spiritual embassies, the spiritual worlds in different countries by installing Achavigra. So we should take, as Prabhupada has mentioned in the previous purports also, we should take advantage. We should not think that the Lord has appeared in Achavigra because he requires service. No, he does not require our services. But we require the Lord to render service for our benefit. So we are the ones who are benefited the most. And therefore, we need to take advantage. If we do not take advantage collectively, then this is also a sign of lack of Krishna consciousness, and the Lord can also decide to unmanifest. Just like we know in the history of the Jagannath, Balara, Subhadra, Maharani deities that were worshipped years, long time ago. The worship of these deities is that they need chapan work, 54 preparations every single day. And over time, those who are worshipping the deities were thinking, but this is the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord doesn't go hungry. It's not like he's hungry. He's got so many goddesses of fortune serving him. So it's okay if we reduce the offering. It's not like the Lord is going to starve. The Achavigra is not going to starve, and the Lord is served by millions of goddesses of fortune in spiritual world. So we can reduce it by half. So they reduced the offering by half. And then they were thinking, even the artis, why do so many artis? We can reduce the. So in this way, they were making different excuses and reducing the offering in the artis, eventually having one offering, one arti. And when the Lord, Jagannath, Balara, Subhadra, Maharani, recognized this attitude, dangerous attitude of the worshippers, then naturally, it's like if you go to a house and you are not received nicely, you get a sense that you're not welcome there. So then you just leave. So the Lord, they decided, it looks like we are not welcome, and the earth opened up. They went into the opening, earth closed and unmanifested. So in this way, This is the danger. If we neglect the deities, they can unmanifest. So we should understand that this is Prabhupada's mercy to give us the opportunity to render, to offer our service, and to really try to cultivate a relationship with the Supreme Lord. As social beings, we need to have relationships, and especially with the Supreme Lord, we need to have relationships. So the relationship is cultivated through the Vigraha. Then Prabhupada continues. The authorized acharyas who know the science perfectly install such temples of the Lord under regular principles just to offer facilities to the common man. But persons who are less intelligent without being conversant with the science mistake this great attempt to be idol worship and poke their nose into that to which they have no access. Therefore, the ladies or men who observe festivals in the temple of the Lord just to have a look at the transcendental form of the Lord are 1,000 times more glorious than those who are non-believers in the transcendental form of the Lord. So Prabhupada's warning about thinking this is idol worship. We may not understand the inconceivable potencies of the Lord, but not understanding does not imply non-existence. If I don't know how a car functions in minute detail, does not deny the fact that the car exists. Similarly, the potencies of the Lord, which are inconceivable, act in wonderful ways. And the Vigraha deities in the temple are non-different from Krishna. I mentioned how one time Srila Prabhupada was requested one of the disciples to give a class. Prabhupada would often do that, get his disciples to speak, and he would sit and hear. So Prabhupada requested one of the devotees to speak. And this devotee was speaking, and the topic was Tacha Vigraha. And at one point, the devotee said that Krishna is in the Acha Vigraha. And Prabhupada immediately stopped him and said, no, Krishna is not in the Acha Vigraha. Krishna is the Acha Vigraha. Non-different. So we need to bring our consciousness, purify our consciousness, and bring our consciousness to that level where through purified consciousness we can see the Lord non-different. We find there are so many pastimes of the deities reciprocating with Srila Prabhupada, reciprocating with devotees. Many, many pastimes are there. One time Prabhupada was, I think it was in the manor. Prabhupada was sitting on the one side, the deities were on the opposite side. And Prabhupada looked at the deities and said, the deities are dancing so nicely today. And all the devotees, they turned to see the deities, but they couldn't see the deities dancing. So for those who are still progressing on the path of bhakti, then they will see stone. But pure devotees of the Lord, they don't see stone, they see the Supreme Lord. And the Lord can speak, like we find Chakshi Gopal, Krishna as a witness. And these pastimes that are there, they instill faith that yes, this is not idol worship. I had a friend that I would travel to work with. He was like a pastor. His father is a pastor. He's, he also preaches in the church. And every day we would have discussions on Krishna consciousness. And it's interesting that we would bring up different topics, and I would share from the Krishna conscious perspective, and he would share from the Bible. And we would never contradict, or we never contradicted on any of the philosophical points that we had discussions on, besides this one, on idol worship and deity worship. Because in the Bible, there's a statement that says, should not make any other image, not worship any other image but the Lord. Which is true, because even in Krishna consciousness, we don't make an idol of anyone and say that's God. No? We make an idol, a multi of the Supreme Lord according to authorized systems given in the Vedas. And then there's a Pran Pratishtha installation ceremony, and we worship the Lord as the Lord. So in that way, it's not contradicting that statement from the Bible. But what was interesting is I shared, because an idol does not speak, an idol does not talk, an idol does not grow, an idol does not move. But if a deity grows, speaks, moves, then it's not an idol. So he would always respond. When we talk about idol worship, he says, he would say, I cannot understand this topic, but I know that there is some truth to it. I may not be able to appreciate or understand. It may even contradict my teachings, but I can understand there's something there. So we are fortunate that Srila Prabhupada, he had taken, because in India there's so many temples and there are deities in the temples. So people who are brought up in India, they can appreciate. But in the West, it is something that's very contradicted to what people's upbringing. Yet Srila Prabhupada is able to install deities in the temple and convince his followers that this is non-different from Krishna. And we find even in the early days, Prabhupada introduced the worship of Lord Jagannath with a candle and getting the devotees to bring everything and offer it to the deities. Started Ratha Yatra, serving the deities. So with the process, bona fide process, authorized process by the acharyas, one can slowly begin to appreciate that the deities are not idols. I also had a very graphic experience when we moved the deities, Shishinitai Gohari, from Hillbrow to Asia, extension 5. We had an academy before they were where they're currently, and we had brought them to the academy, worshipped them for a few months until we got the property that we have now. And when we were relocating them, so we must have worshipped them maybe like a year, 2 years at least. And then we were relocating. We relocated all the devotees to the new property, moved all the paraphernalia to the new property, and then we finally moved the deities to the new property. And I was meant to stay at the academy overnight, like security. So then I stayed alone at the academy. And in the morning, when we got up and went to the empty temple room, it felt very, very cold. It was like chilling, like a graveyard. And I could sense the difference when the deities are there and when they're not there. So even though materially someone may say, but it's marble, it's stone, it's wood. But because the Lord agrees to appear in this incarnation of Achavigra, then we have to understand that this is the Lord's desire. This is how the Lord incarnates, non-different from himself, for us to take advantage. It appears from the verse that inhabitants of Dwarka were all owners of big palaces. This indicates the prosperity of the city. The ladies got up on the roofs just to have a look at the procession and the Lord. The ladies did not mix with the crowd on the street, and thus their respectability was perfectly observed. There was no artificial equality with men. Female respectability is preserved more elegantly by keeping the woman separate from the men. The sexes should not mix unrestrictedly. So here now, Prabhupada, firstly in terms of prosperity, we find Dwarka was very, very prosperous, city of the Lord himself. And the culture of respect, the culture of honor was there. So the woman, the ladies went to the roof and the men were in the procession. It did not, there was no culture to say, oh, just see, you must ill-treating us. You're disrespecting us. We are inferior. No. Prabhupada is saying that this culture of them going to the roof amplified their respect and preserved it more elegantly, which is an interesting culture. And again, the Western culture contradicts this type of understanding. So we also have to understand that the culture that Srila Prabhupada is giving us through the Bhagavatam, this culture of the Bhagavatam is not a temporary culture. It is not a culture that wanes, that changes over time. Krishna was God, is God, and will be God eternally. It's not that Krishna is going to change. Krishna loved cows, Krishna loves cows, and Krishna will eternally love cows. It's not that Krishna is going to change. So everything related to Krishna in terms of his qualities, his nature, his services, his abode, his, the culture that is there in the spiritual world is eternal. And this culture of honoring and respecting, especially the women folk, is definitely also a culture of Krishna consciousness, which is contradictory to the Western culture, especially in relation to equality, that men and women are the same, and therefore they should have same opportunity. We also want to be on the streets and we also want to be with the men. No. There may be exceptions, but generally, in terms of the masses, this was there, in terms of respect. Just like, for example, Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas were generally men, but does not mean that there were no lady Kshatriyas. Draupadi was a lady Kshatriya. So there are Kshatriya women, but those are exceptional cases. Now, we would find that the Kshatriyas were men protecting the rest of the citizens. And that was not considered, that was not considered races or, inferior, why they only, why only the men are protecting, what about the women? Can the women also protect, etc.? No, this is the culture that is there, and every individual, according to their occupation, have a certain nature, a certain culture, but that certain nature and culture has to fit and align with the Krishna conscious culture or the philosophy of the Bhagavatam. So here Prabhupada is making the point in terms of men and women, and also Prabhupada's last statement, the sexes should not mix unrestrictedly. We spoke about this previously also, because we may think there's nothing wrong, but there may be many undercurrents that will start. And these undercurrents of emotions and bad behavior, subtle negative impressions will begin if this is created in society. Everything that the Lord puts in place, both in terms of a culture or lifestyle, a way of living, what should be done and what should not be done, this is there for a reason. It is not that rules and regulations that govern society, govern how men and women should mix, govern the culture or etiquette, is there just because some culture needs to be there. No. The culture that is there, that the Lord has given in the Vedic system, is there very scientifically for helping everyone rise to a higher level of mode, to the mode of goodness, and to rise to a higher level of spiritual consciousness, so that one can transcend the bodily concept of life eventually and return back to that place that is not bound or controlled by the three modes of nature, the spiritual worlds. 25. Nityam Niriksha Mananam Yad Api Dwarko Kasham Na Vitripyanti Hi Drisha Shriyo Daman Gam Achyutam. The inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated. Prabhupada in the purport talks about the law of satiation. When the ladies of the city of Dwarka got up on the roofs of their palaces, they never thought that they had previously many times seen the beautiful body of the infallible Lord. This indicates that they had no satiation in desiring to see the Lord. Anything material seen for a number of times ultimately becomes unattractive by the law of satiation. The law of satiation acts materially, but there is no scope for it in the spiritual realm. The word infallible is insignificant here, because although the Lord has mercifully descended on the earth, he is still infallible. The living entities are fallible because when they come in contact with the material world, they lack their spiritual identity, and thus the body materially obtains becomes subjected to birth, growth, transformation, situation, deterioration, and annihilation under the laws of nature. The Lord's body is not like that. So one very wonderful point, that the residents of Dwarka, they've seen the Lord so many times, but every time they see the Lord, it is like they're seeing this most beautiful person for the first time ever. This is the nature of Krishna's beauty, Nava-yovana, ever fresh. In the material world, if you keep looking at something that's beautiful, or even it could not even just be something that you see with your eyes. People, for example, love, beautiful music, for example. So they may listen to the music again and again and again and again. The law of satiation means that as you do it more often, it becomes less and less exciting. And therefore you find the material world, Maya knows this, people know this, therefore they like to invent newer and newer ways of enjoyment. We find that as technology advances, people's ideas and areas of innovation in terms of enjoyment also advances. people are not satisfied with the same thing. They want something different. Why? Because that's the nature of satiation in material world. You cannot get the same pleasure or more by doing the same thing again and again and again and again. Prabhupada uses this principle of the law of satiation to validate that the process of Krishna consciousness is spiritual. Because anything material is influenced by the law of satiation. Anything spiritual, like the body of the Lord, is not impacted by the law of satiation. And therefore here, every time the residents, the ladies of Dwarka looked at the Lord, they felt they looking at the Lord the first time. He's even more beautiful. If they remembered their previous activity of seeing the Lord, this time he's even more beautiful. And they never tire of looking at the Lord. They never satiated. It is not that they don't get satisfaction. They get inconceivable amount of satisfaction. By serving the Lord, seeing the Lord, our heart becomes very, very satisfied. But our heart does not become satiated, because it is the nature of in this case, in terms of the beauty of the Lord, that we want to keep seeing the beauty. The eyes never tire. They want to keep seeing the beauty of the Lord constantly. And we find that Prabhupada gave us the pictures to the spiritual world, the windows to the spiritual world. So when we see beautiful paintings of Krishna, like this painting of Krishna, we can keep meditating, keep seeing this picture, and one will never tire. Why? Because that proves it is of a spiritual nature. Similarly, by chanting Hare Krishna, Prabhupada often would say you can keep chanting and you never tire. 24 hours, you can keep chanting and you'll never tire. Why? Because it is spiritual. Now, in the beginning stages, in the conditioned stages, because we are so covered by the modes of material nature, we may not be attracted to chanting the holy names. We may not even be attracted to the beauty of Krishna. This is not the fault of Krishna's beauty. Just like the example is given, the sun's out, but if the clouds are covering your eyes, it is not the fault of the sun that you cannot see the sun. It is the clouds of anartha, the clouds of obstacle that is covering one. So, if in the beginning conditional stages of Krishna consciousness, if one is not attracted to the beauty of Krishna, to the holy name of Krishna, then we should understand it is our conditioning and not the fault of the holy name of Krishna. I remember one congregation devotee, we were cultivating, so he came to the temple and I gave him some Mahaprasad. As soon as he sat down and he started honoring the Mahaprasad, he said, "What is this? This doesn't taste nice." And the prasad was offered, was very nice, but his senses were so blunt that the Mahaprasad did not go well with him. After many years of practice of Krishna consciousness and now chanting 16 rounds, now you give him Mahaprasad and he'll honor it with such excitement and taste and bliss. And then you ask him, but hold on, the same prasad you ate when you came initially to the temple, it was not the fault of the prasad, but the conditioned nature that blocks us from tapping into the spiritual arena. So therefore, to through association, we constantly continue to practice with the understanding, philosophical understanding, as the backing. And the philosophical understanding gives us the backing to continue to practice, so that when we rise above the modes and come onto the spiritual platform, now we'll be able to see the Supreme Lord face to face. Now we'll be able to appreciate what Prabhupada is talking about, that we can see the Lord and we can faint in ecstasy just by seeing the Lord. We never tire to see the Lord. We never tire to serve the Lord. This is the realm that we want to come to. That is the goal that we want to come to. Prabhupada continues. The Lord's body is not like that. He descends as he is and is never under the laws of material modes. His body is the source of everything that be, the reservoir of all beauties beyond our experience. No one, therefore, is satiated by seeing the transcendental body of the Lord, because there are always manifestations of newer and newer beauties. The transcendental name, form, qualities, entourage, etc. are all spiritual manifestations, and there is no satiation in the chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no satiation in discussing the qualities of the Lord. There is no limitation of the entourage of the Lord. He is the source of all and is limitless. So whenever we experience any material considerations, for example, we chanting and we feel we're tired, or we are hearing about Krishna and we experience some boredom, or we are having kirtan and there's no interest. This is not the fault of the process. This is the fault of the practitioner. And therefore, we should, as practitioners, understand the distinction or the difference. There is a vast difference between matter and spirit. And therefore, for a living entity who's situated in matter, coming into spirit will experience such obstacles. Srila Vishwan Chakravarti Thakur in Madhunika Rambini describes the different obstacles that somebody on the path of bhakti begins to experience. Like, for example, enthusiasm. One day we get up and we're so enthusiastic to do devotional service. The next day, it's like, yeah, no impetus. So one's enthusiasm grows and weakens, thick and thin. That's one of the obstacles that somebody on this path will begin to experience. As you progress, you'll find that your enthusiasm begins to stay constant, doesn't wane. As you progress even further, now not only does your enthusiasm grow, but your enthusiasm, not only does your enthusiasm stay consistent, but it starts to grow and stay consistent, growing. So like that, one can measure one's progress. Or another obstacle Srila Vishwan Chakravarti Thakur describes is enjoying the facility of Krishna consciousness. When you become a devotee, you get so much honor, respect, resources. And if one thinks, oh yes, this is nice, I can enjoy, that becomes an obstacle. Another obstacle is making vows. I'm going to chant 128 rounds starting tomorrow. And you start the first day and then the next day, you're back to square one. So different obstacles are there in the beginning. This is given, that you could say the path is given to us so that we can understand a practitioner in the modes, and as one progresses, the practitioner coming out of the modes, and then the practitioner or the perfected devotee beyond the modes. all these qualities are given. And very often the statements that are made in the Bhagavatam, like these, where the residents of Dwarka seeing the Lord, they are pure devotees, and it gives us a glimpse of what we can experience as we continue to progress on this path of devotional service beyond the modes of material nature. 26. Sriyo nivasho yasyora anapatram mukham desham bahavo loka palanam sharanganam padambujam. The Lord's chest is the abode of the goddess of fortune. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for the eyes which hanker after all that which is beautiful. His arms are the resting places for the administrative demigods, and his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except his lordship. Purport. There are different classes of human beings, all seeking different enjoyments from different objects. There are persons who are seeking after the favor of the goddess of fortune. And for them, the Vedic literatures give information that the Lord is always served with all reverence by thousands and thousands of goddesses of fortune at the Chintamani Dham, the transcendental abode of the Lord, where the trees are all desire trees and the buildings are made of touchstone. The Lord Govinda is engaged there in herding the Surabhi cows as his natural occupation. So when people ask, who is God? Then this is Krishna's natural occupation. This is Krishna's natural position. He's a cowboy. So it's not that God takes the position of a cowboy, but Krishna, whose natural occupation is a cowboy, expends as God, as Vishnu, to maintain and create the creation, or create and maintain the creation. So Krishna's natural position is that of Krishna in Vrindavan. He is a cowboy. These goddesses of fortune can be seen automatically if we are attracted by the bodily features of the Lord. The impersonalists cannot observe such goddesses of fortune because of their dry speculative habit. And those who are artists overtaken by the beauty of creation should better see to the beautiful face of the Lord for complete satisfaction. The face of the Lord is the embodiment of beauty. What they call beautiful nature is but his smile. And what they call the sweet songs of the birds are but specimens of the whispering voice of the Lord. So if you see anything beautiful in this world, that means beautiful nature, you can immediately think of the smile of the Lord. It is simply his smile. And the chirping of birds, this beautiful chirping of birds, it's really the whispering voice of the Lord. They are administrative demigods in charge of the departmental service of the cosmic management. And they are tiny administrative gods in the state service. They are always afraid of other competitors. But if they take shelter of the arms of the Lord and the arms of the Lord can protect them always from the attacks of enemies. A faithful servant of the Lord engages in the service of the administration, is the ideal executive head, and can well protect the interests of the people in general. So this is for the politicians. A faithful servant of the Lord engaged in the service of administration is the ideal executive head and can well protect the interests of the people in general. So the arms of the Lord are compared to assisting the administrative class. There's administrative roles that are there. Other so-called administrators are symbols of anachronism, leading to the acute distress of the people who are governed by them. The administrators can remain safely under the protection of the arms of the Lord. The essence of everything is the Supreme Lord. He is called Sharam, and those who sing and talk about him are called Sharangas, or the pure devotees. The pure devotees are always anchoring after the lotus feet of the Lord. The lotus has a kind of honey which is transcendently relished by the devotees. They are the bees who are always after the honey. So Prabhupada in the purport starts off the purport in a very interesting way. He says there are different classes of human beings, all seeking different enjoyments from different objects. So he starts off very wide in terms of practically everyone's desire to enjoy in different ways, different objects, different capacities. This is conditioned life, sense gratification. Everybody wants to enjoy. Then Srila Prabhupada brings it down as he's going into the purports related to the verse in terms of those who want the blessings of the goddess of fortune. That means those who want money. Then Prabhupada brings it to the next level, that those who want protection, or those who want to see the face of the Lord, smile, or rather the smile of the Lord. They want to see creation. They want to see the beauty of creation. Those who have different habits, artistic habits, which is also beautiful. So these are different aspects of enjoyment. Then Prabhupada ends of this paragraph talking about the Sharangas, the pure devotees of the Lord, and uses analogy of bees. Just as bees are only interested in honey, then these pure devotees are only interested in the lotus feet of the Lord. And now Prabhupada in the second part of the purport shares Rupa Goswami's poem and then ends off with a very, very important point for us. Prabhupada continues, Srila Rupa Goswami, the great devotee Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, has sung a song about this lotus honey, comparing himself to be the bee. Quote, O my Lord Krishna, I beg to offer my prayers unto you. My mind is like the bee, and it is after some honey. Kindly, therefore, give my bee mind a place at your lotus feet, which are the resources of all transcendental honey. I know that even big demigods like Brahma do not see the rays of the nails of your lotus feet, even though they are engaged in deep meditation for years together. Still, O infallible one, my ambition is such, for you are very merciful to surrendered devotees. O Madhava, I know also that I have no genuine devotion for the service of your lotus feet. But because your Lordship is inconceivably powerful, you can do what is impossible to be done. Your lotus feet can deride even the nectar of heavenly kingdom. And therefore, I am very much attracted by them. O Supreme Eternal, please therefore, let my mind be fixed at your lotus feet, so that eternally I may be able to relish the taste of your transcendental service. So Prabhupada quotes Rupa Goswami's song, very beautiful in terms of the bee-like devotee, the bee-like mind, begging to be at the place of the lotus feet of the Lord. And then it concludes O Supreme Eternal, please therefore let my mind be fixed at your lotus feet so that eternally I may be able to relish the taste of your transcendental service. Now Prabhupada concludes, the devotees are satisfied with being placed at the lotus feet of the Lord and have no ambition to see his all beautiful face or aspire for the protection of the strong arms of the Lord. They are humble by nature, and the Lord is always leaning towards such humble devotees. So Prabhupada is giving us a very, very important hint. There is absolutely no harm seeing the beautiful face of the Lord, but the devotee is interested in more. There is absolutely no harm in getting the mercy of the goddess of fortune, but the devotee is interested in more. There is absolutely no harm in getting the protection of the Lord, but the devotees, the pure devotees of the Lord, are interested in more. And what is that more? Rupa Goswami is sharing that more is like the bee mind, or like the bee-like devotee who wants to be at the lotus feet of the Lord. That is, this is all what we desire. Now, what does it mean to be at the lotus feet of the Lord? Being at the lotus feet of the Lord means to always be carrying out the lotus instructions of the Lord. Being at the lotus feet of the Lord means to be rendering service to the Lord. So we are not interested in just enjoying the beauty of the Lord, enjoying the opulence of the Lord, or enjoying the protection of the Lord. No, we are simply interested in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this attitude of service is what we need to master. We cannot enter the spiritual realm without mastering this attitude of service. In the material world, everybody is trying to master the attitude of being the supreme, being the master, being the controller, being the proprietor, being the enjoyer. In the spiritual world, everyone is simply a servant of the servant, of the servant, of the servant of Krishna. Everyone simply wants to serve. And Prabhupada told one devotee that the lower you go down, being the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, the sweeter it becomes. This is the nature of the spiritual world. And the Bhagavatam is trying to highlight this fact. Prabhupada is, through his purport, is trying to highlight the fact we need to become attached to rendering service to Krishna, to Krishna's holy name, Krishna's devotees. This is what pleases Krishna. As Prabhupada writes, the Lord is always leaning towards such humble devotees. Krishna is inclined towards such devotees. This quality of rendering service attracts Krishna's attention. 27. Sita Tapatra Vyajagner Upashkritya Prasuna Varshai Abhivarshitapati Vishangavasa Vanamalaya Bo Gano Yat Ganoya Thard Kodupa Chapavedyute. As the Lord passed through the public road of Dwarka, his head was protected from the sunshine with a white umbrella. White hair fans moved in semicircles, and showers of flowers fell upon the road. His yellow garments and garlands of flowers made it appear as if a dark cloud was surrounded simultaneously by the sun, the moon, a rainbow, and lightning. Beautiful description of Krishna going through the streets of Dwarka. Prabhupada's purport: the sun, moon, rainbow, and lightning do not appear in the sky simultaneously. When there is the sun, the moonlight becomes insignificant. And if there are clouds and a rainbow, there is no manifestation of lightning. The Lord's bodily hue is just like a new monsoon cloud. He is compared herein to the cloud. The white umbrella over his head is compared to the sun. The movement of the bunch hair fan of flukes is compared to the moon. The showers of flowers are compared to the stars. His yellow garments are compared to the rainbow. So all these activities of the firmament, being impossible simultaneous, cannot be adjusted by comparison. Adjustment is possible only when we think of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. The Lord is all-powerful, and in his presence, anything impossible can be made possible by his inconceivable energy. But the situation created at the time of his passing on the road of Dwarka was beautiful and could not be compared to anything besides the description of natural phenomena. So again, here we bring in the perspective of something which is spiritual, and as conditioned souls, we want to try to appreciate it. It is impossible to appreciate the beauty of the Lord. It is impossible to understand or comprehend the experience that the residents of Dwarka are seeing and experiencing. For the simple reason, one is we have material senses. We are conditioned. And therefore, for us to enter into the spiritual realm and appreciate the spiritual platform is not possible. At the same time, the Bhagavatam wants to attract our mind towards Krishna, attract our attention towards Krishna. So this is one way to do it, is to describe the experience with some natural phenomena that we may have experience of. So we have experience of the sun. When the sun comes up, it's bright, it's wonderful, it's exciting. When the moon light is there, the rainbow, beautiful rainbow, lightning, different, the power and the amazing effects of lightning, different types of lightning, especially in the dark night sky. So we have experience of these natural phenomena, and we can appreciate them in their respective places. Now, when you put all that together, and all these beautiful phenomena come together in one place, as it's described in this verse, we can get some glimpse of its power, its majesty. It's like, wow, if this had to happen, because it's impossible for the sun, moon, rainbow, and lightning to all be together. But if this had to happen, that would be like a wow experience. And this is what the residents of Vrindavan or residents of Dwarka are going through. They are seeing Krishna in this wow experience. They are experiencing Krishna. Because Krishna is no ordinary person. He is the Supreme Lord who's all-powerful. And just by Krishna's presence, there is all auspiciousness, there is all beauty, there is all fame, there is all opulence, there is all knowledge, there is all beauty, there is all renunciation present. And he's the supreme personality of God. So this supermost personality is amidst the resident of Dwarka. It is a great fortune for them. And we get some sort of glimpse of the experience that they're going through. It's inconceivable, but at least we can appreciate that they're definitely going through an extraordinary experience. Why? because they are amidst an extraordinary personality, the most extraordinary personality, Krishna himself, amidst his extraordinary devotees, in his extraordinary abode, Dwarka. No doubt they are experiencing an extraordinary moment. 28. Pravishtastu griham pitro parikshvakta swap matrapi bhavande shirasha sapta devaki pramukha muda. After entering the house of his father, he was embraced by the mothers present, and the Lord offered his obeisances unto them by placing his head at their feet. The mothers were headed by Devaki, his real mother. Prabhupada in the purport says, it appears that Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna, had completely separate residential quarters where he lived with his 18 wives, out of whom Srimati Devaki is the real mother of Lord Krishna. But in spite of this, all other stepmothers were equally affectionate to him, as will be evident from the following verse. Lord Krishna also did not distinguish his real mother from his stepmothers, and he equally offered his obeisances unto all his wives of Vasudeva present on the occasion. According to scripture also, there are 7 mothers: the real mother, the wife of the spiritual master, the wife of the Brahmana, the wife of the king, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. All of them are mothers. Even by this injunction of the Shastras, the stepmother, who is the wife of the father, is also as good as the mother, because the father is also one of the spiritual masters. Lord Krishna, the Lord of the universe, plays the part of an ideal son just to teach others how to treat their stepmothers. So 7 mothers which are there, and here we find Lord Krishna teaching us how to honor our mothers. Krishna came, he was embraced by his father, and then he was embraced by his mother, and he offered obeisances, he offered respect to his mother. And how did he offer respect? He bowed down and his head touched their feet. We find that even 50 years ago, this culture was practiced. It may still be practiced in some parts of India. Now, slowly over time, they'll just bend to touch the knee. All right, then they'll just motion like this. Maybe they'll keep their hands like this, or maybe they just greet and say hi. So, Madri is saying now they say HK, even on the cell phone, HK, Hare Krishna. So even the culture of respect wanes over time. This is also a challenge. We need to maintain this culture, especially in Krishna conscious culture. We have to be very careful that the culture of Krishna consciousness is not influenced by time and eventually becomes more and more watered down to then become completely a different culture. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada was always against changing. Prabhupada gave us a culture. We want to embrace that culture, and we want to disseminate that culture to the next generation, not change the culture or weaken the culture which can be there due to the influence of time, unfortunately. Time has the power to destroy. But at the same time, what Prabhupada has given, the gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us, and because we are, you could say the first generation after Srila Prabhupada's disciples and followers, we are closer to the Krishna conscious culture that Srila Prabhupada has given. But even within the last 50, 100 years, we can see that even in many cases, what Prabhupada has given in terms of the culture has changed. So if within 50 to 100 years, if the culture can change in so many ways, what to talk about if it goes 100, 200, 300, 400,000 years, 5,000 years. If we are not authentic, if we ourselves do not understand the danger of not maintaining Prabhupada's legacy and giving that legacy to the next generation, then what Srila Prabhupada sacrificed his life for will unfortunately go in vain. Prabhupada wanted this culture of Krishna consciousness to continue for 10,000 years. So it is a grave responsibility of every follower of Srila Prabhupada to imbibe the culture of Krishna consciousness and disseminate, give that culture as it is without changing. Now, there may be introductions and changes, and over time we may begin to hear that that was a change. If we do get to hear that it was a change, then we should decide to bring it back to what Srila Prabhupada gave. I'll give you an example. Grace Jananivas Prabhu was mentioning how when Prabhupada was present, one of the GBCs asked him to do Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada. And he had his kurta on. So he went to go do the Guru Puja. And Srila Prabhupada commented, why does that Pujari have his shirt on? Second time, Prabhupada also commented again to another devotee, why does that Pujari have his shirt on? So Prabhupada's standard for Guru Puja was that the devotee who's doing the Guru Puja should have a chada, like a pujari. When you see a pujari on the altar doing arati, it's got his chada. So even when you're doing Guru Puja, Prabhupada's standard was to have a chada on. Now, over time, devotees were thinking it's okay, let me just do it with a kurta, and slowly now it's become the standard to then just do Guru Puja with a kurta. No problem. Okay. But that was not what Prabhupada's standard was. So in this way, over time, if we do begin to hear or learn, then slowly we should try to bring Prabhupada's standard. And in this way, it pleases Srila Prabhupada more and more. And there's so many areas like that in serving prasad. In every devotional act, Prabhupada taught us how to render service to the deities. Prabhupada taught us how to lead kirtan. Prabhupada taught us how to cook. Prabhupada taught us how to serve devotees. Prabhupada taught us how to receive guests. In every area, Prabhupada taught us the culture of Krishna consciousness in these different areas. And therefore, we need to understand and try to maintain those services and cultures that Prabhupada has given us so that we can disseminate that to the future generations. So whenever we meet any of these seven mothers, then we can pay respects by bowing down. Srila Prabhupada told Brahmananda when he was going to see his mother, he's brought up in the West, in America. Prabhupada said, when you see your mother, pay obeisances. Naturally, it's like foreign. But Brahmananda Prabhu went, he knocked on the door. His mother opened the door. She saw nobody in front of her. And she looked down and she saw Brahmananda paying obeisances. So this is the Krishna conscious culture. Because Prabhupada told them, and then dare to do it. This was their dedication to Srila Prabhupada. 29. Putram ankam aropya sneha snuta vayodhara harsha vivalita mana shishichur netra jair jalai. The mother, after embracing their son, set him on their laps. Due to pure affection, milk sprang from their breast. They were overwhelmed with delight, and tears from their eyes wetted the Lord. So here Krishna was, a young adult, and no more baby, no more young boy. Yet the motherly affection that the mothers had was exhibited, and just by seeing Krishna, embracing Krishna, putting Krishna on their lap, their milk began to come from their breasts, tears from their eyes, due to their motherly affection. And Krishna would reciprocate with their motherly love. We find even Lord Nityananda, when he would see Mother Malini, even though he was an adult, but in front of Mother Malini, this was my baby boy. And that reciprocation was always there, like this is my baby boy. This is affection. This is spiritual affection beyond the boundaries of age. Because in this world, naturally, as the son grows up, the relationship, the mother's affection is still there, but it may change as the son grows up. Here we find that on the spiritual platform, Mother Yashoda, Mother Devaki, Mother Malini, their affection for Krishna in the form of Krishna or Lord Nityananda, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is eternal. And they always see through their motherly affection, they see Krishna through their motherly affection. And Krishna reciprocates their motherly love. Prabhupada in the purport, when Lord Krishna was at Vrindavan, even the cows would become moistened by affection towards him. And he would draw milk from the nipples of every affectionate living being. So what to speak of the stepmothers who were already as good as his own mother. Srila Jiva Goswami describes one attribute of Krishna's monsoon-like color, Sham. This Krishna has Krishna has a spiritual color, bluish, blackish, monsoon-like color. And Srila Jiva Goswami says this color of Krishna, it has the ability to extract devotion, pull devotion out of the devotee's heart. So here, as Prabhupada is saying, he would draw milk from the nipples of every affectionate living being. Krishna would draw the affection, draw the love out of everyone that came in contact. This is Krishna. This is why Krishna is called all attractive. Krishna has this attractive, magnetic, powerful effect of those around him. The enemies, they experience this effect around Krishna, and it instills fear. It instills caution. Whereas the devotees who are amidst Krishna, their heart melts. their heart is drawn, their senses are pulled towards Krishna. They cannot hold or resist themselves. So as we go through these verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, becoming purified by associating with the different devotees, now we are associating with the residents of Dwarka and their love and affection and relationship with Krishna. As we hear these different narrations, chapter by chapter through the Bhagavatam, our heart becomes purified. We are blessed by the association of these devotees. We are hearing about Krishna's wonderful qualities. Our heart should begin to melt. We should slowly desire more and more to be with Krishna in his Acha Vigraha, in the form of the Bhagavatam, in the form of the holy name. And in this way, chapter by chapter, as we associate with all the different devotees, when we enter into the 10th canto of Krishna's eternal pastimes, our consciousness will be ripe so that we can actually enter and eternally situate ourselves at the lotus feet of Krishna in Vrindavan. That brings us to the end of these wonderful verses of Canto 1, Chapter 11. Next week, we will cover verses 30 to 39, completing this chapter, Krishna entering Dwarka. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So we'll share a little. If there's any questions, please type those questions in, and we'll share a little about His Grace Purushottam Prabhu. Who left this world last week, Thursday. So Purushottam Prabhu and his family, Mother Champakalata, Paresh, Kamlesh, and Jayesh, they were one of the first congregation members in Indonesia. And the father was running a dry clean business, and they had a small house, and then they built a house, they built a bigger house. And part of the extension when they built was a huge temple room. That temple room size would be possibly like maybe, I would say half, maybe about half the temple room size, a little smaller of the current temple. They built a nice temple room so that they could accommodate the devotees to have the Namahata there. And we started one of the first Namahatas there in their houses. And they were very, very receptive, and their hearts were wide open to serving and receiving the devotees. That their home became like the pit stop. Anytime the devotees would do Sankirtan in Indonesia, they would stop there, and without fail, they were fed prasadam. No matter what time it was, they would be open to receive the devotees, make sure that they fed them. So this was the culture that they had. Purushottam, his wife, his family, they love to serve the devotees. He was also, together with his family, very instrumental in Sankirtan. They would win many of the calendar marathons, distributing calendars door to door. They would take majority of the calendars every year. They would go door to door, visiting homes, selling calendars. And when we started the Namahata there, we would have regular Namahatas after. So they would have the Namahata. One devotee from Mildersdorf would come and give the talk, and then after the Namahata, there they would serve the feast. So they would cook every single Namahata. It was generally on a Saturday. And they would cook, and their speciality, Mother Champakalata's speciality was cheese toast. She would make cheese toast and hot milk for all the devotees and serve all the devotees very, very lovingly. So this was their main service was Sankirtan and receiving the devotees. They love receiving the devotees, serving the devotees. And they got initiated by Krishna's Maj, both Purushottam Prabhu and Mother Champakalata. And for many, many years, they even, when the deities moved, they even in academy, they would come and do Raj Bhoga. So Mother Champakalata would do Raj Bhoga, Purushottam Prabhu would do the Arati. So they served the devotees, started in the Mahata, they served the devotees, whoever was coming there, they were involved in Sankirtan. Then they served the deities in terms of Raj Bhoga. And the whole family, even now Paresh comes, does the garlands. And so the whole family is Krishna conscious. They were coming to Muldersdorf as well. That was before the Hillbrow Temple. So many years they were involved. So very, 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 very wonderful family. And we know that anyone who renders service to the devotees, to the Sankirtan mission, to deities, Krishna never forgets them. Krishna never forgets them. So by Prabhupada's mercy, by Prabhupada's mercy, anyone who renders service to Srila Prabhupada's mission, their life is glorious. We come in this world, we take birth, death is certain. Sooner or later, every one of us are going to leave. But the fact that we are connected to Srila Prabhupada, the fact that we are connected to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, the fact that we are trying to be devotees of Krishna, then our future is nothing but bright. There is absolutely no inauspiciousness for somebody who's on the path of Krishna consciousness. So we should have that firm faith that no matter what happens to any one of us, the fact that we are going to die, whenever we die, our life will be far, far, far more glorious than the current life. And if we have perfected our journey by Prabhupada's mercy, by Krishna's mercy, then it will be super glorious, because then we will enter eternally into Krishna's pastimes. But even if we do not enter into Krishna's pastimes, still our life will be glorious. All right. Bafana Prabhu says, could it be possible that continued chanting is it possible that continued chanting the Hare Krishna mantra consequently brings about beauty and youthful like enthusiasm serving? Yes. Any continuous rendering of service will, with the right attitude and consciousness, will always bring about beauty, youthful like enthusiasm serving. Prabhupada said, the result of service is more service. So if one has the proper consciousness and one is rendering service properly, with the proper attitude, in the proper association, then the attitude of serving would be increasing and not diminishing. We should not be experiencing a situation where we have lack of devotees to render service. If that is happening, then it would imply that either the devotees are very busy with or preoccupied with other activities, but definitely individually, if one is chanting nicely, rendering service nicely, the result is more service. Also, if one is not studying and reading Srila Prabhupada's books, one may be doing service, but if you are not constantly reading Prabhupada's books, then that proper understanding of how to do service, how to render service, and the glory of that service never takes birth. So therefore, constantly rendering service and reading Srila Prabhupada's books is very, very important. Otherwise, we will take service to be ordinary. We'll take service to be a botheration. We'll take service to be like, why must I do it? Can't they get somebody else? That becomes the situation, and that's unfortunate. That means you've just got derailed from the spiritual path onto a material track. So we should be very, very careful of that. So yes, by constant chanting, it will. By constant rendering service, it will. That's the nature of Krishna consciousness. Amavati Radhika says, an absolutely beautiful, amazing, fantastic, and wonderful class. Thank you very much, Prabhu. We are so grateful. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is most wonderful. Thank you, Amavati Radhika, for your feedback and appreciation. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for such sweet Krishna Katha, such beautiful description of Krishna and loving interaction. Makes me feel like I'm intruding on a very personal moment. And at the same time keeps me riveted and expands the feeling in my heart. Thank you. Yes. We can appreciate one factor, one point. When Srila Prabhupada was giving purports to these verses, he wasn't in America or wherever he was dictating, writing about the Bhagavatam of history. Prabhupada was personally present, experiencing that moment. In this case, of the Dwarka Vasis seeing Krishna. The pure devotee, when he speaks about Krishna, he enters into the Leela. As a conditioned soul, when I'm speaking about these pastimes, I'm in Weltevreden Park. I'm not in the pastime. No doubt the purification is there, but the experience is not the same. The pure devotees are able to enter. So we can pray, as Rupa Goswami gave the beautiful prayer, we can pray to Krishna to please bless us with service at his lotus feet, so that one day we can also enter eternally into his pastimes and serve him in presence of all these wonderful devotees. And even if we get a glimpse, a moment's experience, as we go through these verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is glorious, because these experiences are not mundane. These experiences are not material. They are spiritual experiences, allowing us to enter into the eternal reality. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for sharing the pastimes on the idol worship with your friend. Srila Prabhupada in the purport is really giving us all the info on eternal culture, lifestyle, psychology, etc., which we are lacking and have no clue about. Very powerful info on the law of satiation. All glories to Krishna Prabhu and his family. Thank you very much, Chairman Prabhu, for your appreciation and feedback. Yes, Prabhupada said, everything you need to know is in my books, which means that the knowledge of Krishna, the practice of Krishna, the goal of Krishna consciousness, the culture of Krishna consciousness, the lifestyle of Krishna consciousness, the qualities of Krishna consciousness, the attitude of Krishna consciousness, everything is in Prabhupada's books. And that is why Prabhupada also said, as time progresses, more and more people appreciate the magnitude of what Prabhupada has given. It's inconceivable what Srila Prabhupada has given, both from a theoretical as well as from a practical perspective. It's just inconceivable. And the more we become Krishna conscious, the more we will appreciate this even more and more. The more we become Krishna conscious, the more we will appreciate what Prabhupada did, and the more we want to dedicate our life to Srila Prabhupada, to at least do something to show our gratitude. And even if we don't do anything, at least to try and maintain what he has given us, to be an example to others. And there are many great, exalted, wonderful devotees all over the world that Prabhupada is touching in every part of this creation. Srila Prabhupada is touching, transforming their lives, and that we can learn. Like even from Purushottam Prabhu's family, many devotees, we can learn the attitude of service, sincerity, simplicity. He was very simple, but sincere. And those qualities are glorious. And then, yes, your point about the law of satiation. This material world, we will always be satisfied and we want something new. Consider, there's really nothing wrong with a phone, but the problem is you become satiated. Therefore, they have a new phone, a new model, and a new model. And people keep, wanting to get a new model, because they think that if I get a new model, I'll have new forms of happiness, I'll get more happiness, etc. And in this way, they keep going into a cycle. Whereas with Krishna consciousness, we're chanting the same mantra, wearing the same clothes, same style clothes, same tattoo marks of the tilak, same tune, same devotees, same prasad, same deities. And we can do that every single day, day in, day out, 365 days a year, year in, year out, life in, life out, forever, and not get tired. That proves it is spiritual. Thank you very much for everyone's attendance and association. We will end here and continue next week. Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande. Hari Hari Bol.